I want to start today with a bit of a paradox. And I'm asking this because I was staring at my ceiling at 2:20 a.m. thinking about it. Why is it that you can be smart, experienced, highly capable, like you have the degrees, you have the life experience, but you still find yourself making the same specific type of mistake over and over again? It's like being a high-performance computer that just keeps crashing on the exact same line of code every single time.
It is so frustrating. It's that feeling where you think you're evolving, you think you're moving forward, but if you actually look at this sort of GPS track of your life, you realize you're just running laps.
Yes, in a very sophisticated, very expensive groove.
Exactly.
And that is the mystery we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We are tearing into a set of insights about, well, mastering the mindset beyond thinking patterns.
hmm
And I want to be clear right off the bat, this is not a positive thinking deep dive. We're not here to manifest good vibes.
No, not at all. This is mechanics.
Yeah.
It's engineering for the brain.
The core premise here is, well, it's a little uncomfortable. The source material suggests that the reason intelligent people get stuck isn't that they aren't smart enough.
Right.
It's that their operating system is outdated.
Right. And to get that, we need to talk about mental models.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at the biology. The brain it's an energy expensive organ.
Right.
It uses something like 20% of your body's energy, but it's a tiny part of your weight. So it hates doing new work. It hates ambiguity.
So what does it do?
It builds shortcuts.
Like a cheat sheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It creates these models to interpret the world quickly. If you see a red light, you don't, stop and analyze the physics of photons or traffic laws. You just stop. That's a mental model.
Which is efficient. We need that to survive.
It's absolutely necessary for survival.
Mm.
But, and this is the critical distinction the source makes, a shortcut can very easily become a prison. The quote that really anchors this whole section is, "What you don't see controls you."
What you don't see controlled you. That sounds like a horror movie tagline.
It's not far off. Think about it. If you have a mental model that says conflict is always dangerous, you will subconsciously sabotage every single negotiation you enter.
You won't even know you're doing it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You'll just feel anxious and you'll back down.
Yeah.
You aren't choosing to lose. Your invisible model is choosing for you.
That reminds me of that Einstein quote that gets thrown around so much. You cannot solve problems with the same thinking that created them.
Mm-hmm.
Usually people take that to mean try harder or, brainstorm more.
But the source argues Einstein meant something much deeper. It's not about generating more thoughts. It's about realizing you're wearing a specific pair of glasses that distorts everything you see.
So you can look as hard as you want.
But if the glasses are pink, the world's going to look pink.
So our mission today is pretty specific then. We aren't just talking about changing your mind. We are talking about swapping out the lenses. We're going to look at 3 specific toolkits from the source material. The 6 thinking hats, the theory of multiple intelligences, and a decision-making protocol called the 40-70 rule.
These are the tools to break the glass.
Before we get to the solution, though, I want to twist the knife a little bit more on the problem, this one-track mind. The source highlights that when we stick to one mental model, the consequences aren't just, oh, I had a bad day. They are systemic failures.
The business examples are probably the most obvious ones for people. We see companies go bust all the time. But the source specifies they rarely go bust because they ran out of cash. They go bust because they treated a strategy like a religion.
Like the classic Kodak or Blockbuster example.
Exactly. They had the money, they had the smart people, but their mental model was, we are a film company, or we are a video rental store. The market shifted, the tech shifted, but their model was rigid. They were optimizing a machine that the world didn't even need anymore. They were efficient, sure, but they were efficiently walking off a cliff.
The relationship example in the text, that hit harder for me, honestly. I think we've all been there. It talks about partners who have only one way of interpreting data.
This is tragic because it's so preventable. If your only mental model for silence is, they are angry at me, then every single time your partner is quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're tired, maybe they're thinking about dinner. You go into crisis mode.
You start defending yourself against an attack that isn't even happening.
And that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You react to the anger you imagined, which then, of course, actually makes the other person annoyed. You created the very reality you feared because your map was wrong.
And usually people defend this behavior. I hear it all the time. Well, that's just my personality. I'm an anxious person. Or I'm just highly analytical. I don't really do feelings.
That is the biggest trap of all. The text argues this is not personality, it's habit. You have mistaken a well-worn neural pathway for your actual identity.
Whoa, that's a heavy claim. You're saying my personality is just a rut I've been running in for too long?
In this context, yeah, if you've always taken the analytical route, it's not because you were born a calculator. It's because you've forgotten how to use the other tools in the shed.
You've let the other muscles atrophy.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about how to hit the gym and reclaim those tools. The first major framework is The Six Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. Now, I have to be honest, I've seen this used in corporate icebreakers, and it always feels a bit silly. Okay, everyone, put on your thinking caps.
It gets a bad rap because it's so often taught poorly. The main function of the hats isn't to be fun or creative. It is to depersonalize thinking.
Depersonalize. Break that down for me.
Well, usually our ego is all wrapped up in our thoughts.
Yeah.
If I have an idea and you critique it, I feel attacked. I defend the idea because it's my idea. The hats force you to separate the thinker from the thought. You aren't being negative. You are wearing the black hat.
It creates psychological safety.
So it fragments the thinking process so you don't have to do everything at once.
Yes.
You aren't trying to be creative and logical and emotional all at the same time, which is just impossible.
Precisely. It breaks the brain's processing into these distinct channels.
Let's run through them because I think the nuance is key. We start with the white hat.
The white hat is just the baseline. Pure data, no opinions, no I feel, no I think this will work, just what information do we have and what information is missing. It forces the brain to stop interpreting and just start observing.
It sounds boring, but in an argument, that's probably the most important step. Did he actually say he hates you, or did he just not do the dishes?
Exactly. White hat says he did not do the dishes. That is it. Then you have the yellow hat and the black hat. I see these as the accelerator and the brake.
That's a good analogy. Yellow hat is deliberately optimistic. It's hunting for value and benefit. The black hat is critical. It hunts for risk and weakness.
And the source makes a good point here, that most of us are naturally tilted toward one or the other.
Right. If you're a natural optimist, you might skip the black hat entirely. You don't see the risks, and so you crash. If you're a natural worrier, you wear the black hat 24/7. You get paralyzed by cynicism because you only see what could go wrong.
The goal is to be able to put the hat on and then take it off at will.
Exactly.
Then there's the red hat. This one is interesting because usually in smart environments, we're told to keep emotions out of it. Be professional.
Which is biologically impossible. The red hat legitimizes emotion. It says, look, I feel uneasy about this deal. By giving that feeling a hat, you acknowledge it without letting it secretly drive the car. You put the emotion on the table so you can look at it as another piece of data.
I'm feeling angry right now. That's a red hat statement. It doesn't mean you have to act on the anger.
You just have to log it.
Exactly.
It prevents the emotion from sabotaging the logic.
Then the green hat for creativity, the what if, and finally the blue hat to manage the whole process. The big takeaway for me wasn't about memorizing the colors. It was the realization that if I am suffering or stuck, it's likely because I'm trying to see a complex situation through only one of these lenses.
If you're overwhelmed, you're likely stuck in the red hat. If you're hopeless, you're probably stuck in the black hat. The ability to switch hats is effectively the ability to unstuck your own perception.
That idea of being stuck leads us into the second tool, multiple intelligences. This really challenges the whole IQ test version of smarts, right?
Yes. This references Howard Gardner's work. The argument is that intelligence isn't some single voltage that you either have or you don't. It's a whole spectrum of capabilities: spatial, musical, linguistic, logic, math, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and so on.
The list is long, but I want to focus on the application. The text uses this great metaphor. If you try to solve an emotional problem using only logic, math, intelligence, you are essentially trying to unlock a door with a banana. It's just the wrong tool.
And it leads to a false diagnosis. You fail to solve the problem. Maybe you're using logic to comfort a grieving friend, and it's just not working. So you conclude, I'm bad at relationships.
Or I'm socially awkward.
But the reality is you were just using the wrong intelligence. A logical person needs proof. An interpersonal person needs connection. If you don't know which room you're in, you can't pick the right key.
This also ties into the learning styles mentioned, the VAK model. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, I think we've all been there. Staring at a textbook visual and retaining absolutely nothing.
And then you do the task with your hands kinesthetic, and suddenly it clicks.
The source has a great line. When you learn at the wrong door, the brain closes.
It just shuts down. You have to diversify your approach to your own brain. If you aren't understanding something, stop trying to force it harder. Change the channel. Draw it out. Talk it out. Walk it out.
Okay, so we have the hats to depersonalize thought and intelligences to diversify our approach. But eventually, you have to actually make a decision. You have to do something. And this is where I think most overthinkers, myself included, we hit the wall. Analysis paralysis.
This brings us to the 40-70 rule. It's a decision-making heuristic often attributed to Colin Powell, and it's used by leaders to balance speed and accuracy.
Break it down for us.
The rule states, if you have less than 40% of the information, don't act. You're just guessing. You're rolling the dice.
It makes sense. Don't go in blind.
But, and this is the hard part for perfectionists, if you wait until you have more than 70% of the information, you are too slow.
Whoa, that 40 to 70 gap is terrifying. You're explicitly saying we should act when we are only, what, 70% sure?
Yes, because the opportunity cost of waiting for that last 30% usually outweighs the value of whatever information you gain. By the time you are 100% sure the market has moved, the opportunity is gone.
Or someone else has already done it.
Exactly. So the goal isn't certainty, it's enough certainty.
Life gives you just-in-time information, never complete information.
You have to get comfortable operating in that gray zone.
To carve out the mental space to actually make those calls, the source suggests a not-to-do list. Now, usually I see this and I think, okay, don't smoke, don't eat junk food. But the source frames it quite differently.
It's strategic. It's about creating boundaries. You can only do high-level thinking if you protect your processor. So the examples are things like, I do not argue when I am tired. I do not check email before 9 a.m.
I do not make financial decisions when I am hungry.
Exactly. It's subtraction before addition. You can't execute the blue hat management if your brain is leaking energy on low-level reactive habits like doom scrolling or, arguing on the internet.
Let's ground all this. I want to see these tools in action. The material provides a case study that forces all these concepts to work together. It's a scenario involving a student who wants to communicate better with their family, but every conversation just turns into a fight.
This is a perfect application for a deep dive because it's so relatable. The student thinks the problem is, my family is difficult. That's their one-track mind. That's the rut.
So how do they apply the tools? Walk us through that shift.
Okay, so they start with the blue hat, the manager. They realize the goal isn't winning the argument or proving I'm right. The real goal is peace and understanding. That changes the entire battlefield.
Okay. Then the white hat, the data.
They look at the facts, objectively. When do fights happen? And the data showed. Arguments almost always happen when people are hungry, tired, or stressed right after work. That's not a personality clash, that's a physiological setup.
So it's not they hate me, it's their blood sugar is low.
Precisely. Then the student puts on the scary one, the red hat.
Which is admitting the real emotion.
The student admits, I'm defensive because I'm afraid they don't respect me. That's the hidden engine driving the whole conflict. Once you see that, you can actually deal with it.
And finally, the green hat for the new solution.
The creative solution wasn't some perfect speech, it was structural. They just implemented a 5-minute pause before reacting to anything when they got home, and they started asking a new question. What do you need right now?
It's amazing, isn't it? They moved from a locked door mindset, my family is annoying, to an open window mindset just by rotating through the different lenses.
They stopped trying to force the door and just walked around the wall.
And that leads to what the source calls second-level thinking. This is the mechanism that makes the change stick.
Right. First-level thinking is immediate. I'm angry, so I yell. It satisfies the urge right now. Second-level thinking asks the magic question. And then what?
And then what? It sounds so simple.
It is, but almost nobody does it in the heat of the moment. Okay, so I yell at them. And then what?
And then they yell back. And then we don't talk for a week. And then the relationship sours. And then I feel lonely.
Exactly. It forces you to trace the timeline. If you can see the consequences 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years out, you stop being a slave to the immediate impulse. You realize that winning the argument today means losing the relationship tomorrow.
The source claims that if you can integrate these habits, escaping the single perspective, using the right intelligence, thinking in timelines, you unlock 3 superpowers. Now, superpowers is a big word. Are we talking flight or invisibility here?
Nothing that dramatic, but effectively just as powerful in a social sense. The first is simply escaping the rut. You stop being a robot executing a program. You become the programmer. You choose your reaction.
Being the programmer, not the program. I like that.
The second is seeing root causes. You stop trying to fix symptoms, like just trying to Be nicer. And you fix the source, like realizing you're arguing because you're hungry or you feel insecure.
And the third, quantum leaps.
This one sounds a bit buzzwordy, I know. But in this context, it just means nonlinear improvement.
Break that down.
If you just try harder, if you just pedal the bicycle faster, you get a 10% gain, maybe 20. But if you change your mental model, if you realize you don't even need to win the argument, or that you can take a bus instead of a bike, you get a 10x improvement.
It's a shift in scope, not just effort.
You change what is possible because you change the rules of the game in your own head.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today, from 6 hats to multiple intelligences to the 40-70 rule. But the overarching theme seems to be that we don't lack intelligence. We lack the map to use it effectively.
A mature mind isn't one that knows all the answers. It's one that knows which lens to look through at any given time. It's all about flexibility.
So I want to leave you with the final challenge posed by the source material. It's a question you should ask yourself the next time you feel absolutely certain about something, the next time you think this is a total disaster or this person is an idiot.
The question is, which hat are you wearing right now that you have mistaken for the truth?
Are you wearing the black hat and calling it realism? Are you wearing the red hat and calling it justice?
Check your hat. That might just change everything you see.
Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next one.